but they're not moving. What do we need for electricity to travel around? What do we call that? Electricity to travel around, I need a complete what? Nick?
Circuit.
I need a circuit.
We think of science and math, these different subjects that a lot of times are taught in these silos individually, and STEM or STEAM is really the funneling of all those together, that we do activities where all those elements are coming in. And the idea with that is that when students grow up, they're going to be out in society, and so they're going to be making decisions, and we want them to have be able to make educated decisions.
I'm sure you guys have seen these.
Solar panels.
Okay, solar panels.
I had the students look at solar panels and then question them about what is a solar panel made of, and then had them measure electricity that was generated with that solar panel. So the students have been using wind turbines to generate electricity, and that has moving parts. I wanted them to take a look at the solar panels, and I asked them to think about where they see these in the community, and they were able to tell me that they see them in fields, they see them on buildings, they see them on houses.
What is a solar panel doing? I want you to think for a minute. Tell the people at your group, what is the purpose of this? What are these doing? Go ahead, share with the people at your group.
It gives you energy. It gives you energy for you could use your phone for your PlayStation.
Most of the electricity that we produced is produced by burning fossil fuels.
What do you mean by saving energy?
Not burning fossil fuels.
And so they were, able to state that, and now this is, okay, so here's an example of, they understand the idea of that the renewable energy is not polluting, but they really don't understand how that energy is produced. So to kind of add to what they already know, okay, they know the solar panels are in their community, now can they begin to think about why is that really working? So the next time they see one and someone talks about that, they can be the one to say, hey, did you know that it's made of silicone, and then how that's made, and just kind of take that one step further for them.
Does anybody know what this is made up of? What is a solar panel, the number one thing a solar panel is made up of?
Energy.
So it's not made up of energy, it's creating energy. Well, good guess, Lily. Hunter?
Protons and electrons.
So there are protons and electrons in this. What is moving that generates the electricity? What is the moving? Is the proton moving or the electron moving?
The electron.
The electrons are moving, right? We talked about that with the generator.
The whole idea behind this is that you don't need to know the answers, but you're trying to discover those answers. So if somebody sets up a solar panel and like right here in the class when we did this activity, some of the students, when I opened the blinds, could see that the ones closer to the window produce more electricity. Well, someone's going to be like, well, why is theirs producing more? Well, when you walk around and discover that the closer I get to the window, the higher the electricity, the voltage it is that it produced, then they can start to deduce that. So you might not know that outside light's going to produce more energy than the artificial light inside.
6, 8, 9.
But you can begin to discover that. So it's the idea that you don't need to know the answers, but by exploring and coming up with more questions, then they can find more answers.
Am I going to leave it flat, or am I going to put it on an angle? Go ahead, talk amongst the group. Talk amongst the group.
It moves down. At sunset, it moves down.
I think the STEM instructor is the facilitator to help people learn. And there's many times that I don't have the answers, and I'll tell the students I don't have the answers. But
Go ahead.
oftentimes there's students that will say, well, I know, and I'm like, okay, you're on. The stage is yours. Can you tell me and tell everybody else at the same time, how'd you come up with that? And because I want to know, and you figured it out, explain it to us. So it's that whole idea, I think, of that cooperative learning, just whereas I talked about STEM is funneling all those different subjects and using them all into one. It's the same idea with the learning. It's learning from everybody. Also, to tie this to future careers, that there's careers in energy, and we've talked about that a lot. Just we look at the exponential growth that's taking place in renewable energy. So these students can take these ideas, and maybe that sparks an interest in, this is what I want to do for a career. That and it doesn't even necessarily, they might not like the idea of measuring the electricity, but they might like the idea of, because we talked about that we used one panel, but they see on a house many panels. Well, someone had to decide what those layouts are. So there's so many different connections to different careers that kids might find a buy-in for.
We just went up to 2.
Ultimately, I want the students to be lifelong learners. I want them to go out and say, I have a problem. Okay, well, let's tackle that problem. What can we do to solve it?